ठीक है, no worries. So let me get to the team then, right? So team is, what is the right team to go about building a startup? Is it the right team or the right market or the right product? What do you guys think? Team is important, market is important, or the product is important? Right. So I think my personal opinion there is, I think the market is a lot more important than the team and the product, right? So I'll tell you, right. I think someone essentially mentioned this. When a great team meets a lousy market, the market wins. It can be an amazing bunch of guys, but the market is extremely small, right? The market is ensure that the company is going to fail, right? And a lousy team meets a great market, the market wins. The market will ensure that it will get the product out of this team with multiple iterations and stuff like that, right? When a great team meets a great product, great market, then something special happens. That's where the unicorns are really born, right? You can probably take a stance that the right team is something which will improvise, which will pivot and stuff like that. But unless they pivot to a great market, it's nothing's going to work, right? The sure shot killer for a startup is the lack of market, right? So you have to really start looking at that, right? So market is a lot more important, not necessarily the team, right? But if you essentially go a couple of levels below, then you need to have the right people with the right market and the right product, right? Until then, nothing really happens, right? That's a way to really look at it, right? And founders, who are the right team? How do you go about building the right team and things like that, right? So that's also right. Majority of the people feel that they don't really have a tech background for them to really work on building a great team and things like that, right? So you just don't have to really worry about the skills of the people. What you need to really look at is certain values, right? Whether the core values of the individuals that essentially I'm trying to build it as a co-founding team matches with my core values, right? Do they have the drive? Are they curious? Are they passionate? Right? That's what essentially matters. If someone is passionate, someone has the drive, they'll acquire the skills. If someone has the skills, they will not acquire the drive and the passion and the curiosity. You guys have to understand, right? So don't try to build a co-founding team which has the right skills, right? So the reality is, once a startup essentially get to a particular stage, you will not be building products, you will not be writing codes, you will not be doing marketing, you will be organizations, you will be focusing on building the culture of the company, you will be focusing on addressing the HR issues, you will be focusing on fundraise. You guys understand? The necessity of skill is too far overrated. You might probably be using those skills for at least 1 or 2 years, not more than that. Once you essentially build a great team, they will be doing all that. Your skills, whatever you thought that the skills are extremely important for the founding team, is not at all required once the startup gets to a particular stage. The problem with us is we give too much of onus for something that we will see in the short term and miss the big picture, right? But you are not necessarily having a co-founder only for the first 1 or 2 years. This co-founder has to last till the lifetime, right? That is more important. For that, the curiosity, the drive, right, ethics, integrity, those things matter a lot more than the skills, right? I mean, that's essentially what we do in the college as well. We focus more on strategy courses, we focus more on operations courses, logistics courses and stuff like that. We don't do much on HR, OD and other things. But whether you are part of a startup or you be part of a corporate or stuff like that, right, you get to a stage very soon where you will not be doing strategy, where you will not be focusing on operations, you will not be doing logistics, you will be essentially looking at building organizations, trying to motivate the team to achieve something in life, right? Hiring people, letting go of people, addressing HR issues between peoples and stuff like that, right? But we focus more on Manac, accounts, we focus more on strategies because we'll get people to do all that for you. But no one essentially is going to help you build an organization, drive the culture of the company, deal with HR issues and stuff like that. That is something that you guys have to really do, right? So never go for a co-founder because of certain skills that you currently missing with you at this stage. But what you need to really do is what is the kind of skills that would essentially build a strong foundation. On top of that, every other skill is required. The person can, for the time being, if you don't really have resources, they themselves have to do it. Otherwise, you need to do it. And in a startup, everything goes through ups and downs and stuff like that, right? For example, in a taxi for sure kind of a business, our performance, the company's performance was as much as the least performing team, right? So we had a, let's say, marketing is not able to generate enough calls, right? Even though our tech is phenomenal, can handle, let's say, 100k transactions a day, doesn't matter. Even though we have adequate supply to essentially cater to 100k customers, doesn't really matter because we don't really have enough customers. Understand? So that is essentially what the number of transactions that we can service is only how much can the marketing really do that. Let's say marketing figured out a way to take it to 200k, but supply is only 100k, but the technology can handle 150k. Then whatever maximum that we can do is 100k. You guys understand? So on and so forth. So if you essentially start splitting the responsibility between founders, that you take care of technology, I take care of product, you take care of marketing, I take care of these things, right? Once things go through that, then you need to get all hands on deck. You understand? Everyone has to be essentially focusing on solving the marketing problem or solving the supply problem, right? Having so, then the skills doesn't really matter, right? Skill doesn't really matter. Then everyone essentially has to do whatever that is required, and that is the need of the hour. A co-founder cannot be sitting on a chair because marketing is not his or her domain, but the other co-founder's domain. So the other co-founder is logging. Will that happen? Do you really think that is going to happen? That's not going to happen. Then why are we so afflicted towards skills in a co-founder? Skills are just incidental, right? You need to really do that. But having said that, you need to have responsibility. Somebody's neck should be on the line. You understand? You divide responsibilities. You can't be like collective responsibility essentially becomes no one's responsibility. But someone's neck is on the line. Your co-founder's neck is on the line. But you also pitch in when the need matters. And need arises all the time, because it's not that both the teams will be performing as well or as bad at the same time. One team will be performing extremely well, another team will be performing extremely bad, but essentially both of them have to really converge, right? So the affinity towards skills is too far overrated, right? So don't look at co-founders for the skills, look at for the fundamental values. The value system essentially has to really match. But let's say if someone doesn't really mind bribing to get things done, but the other person essentially has a strong disagreement with bribe, right? Then you are essentially going for a toss, right? And both the co-founders essentially have to be ambitious, right? You need to have the same ambition, but not necessarily the same aspiration. The goal, the drive towards the goal has to be there. The aspiration may not necessarily be the same, because invariably in any startup, one of the co-founders would essentially take the lead. If you look at Flipkart, it's Sachin Bansal's name that you hear. If in a Redbus, it's Fanindra Sama that you typically hear, right? So if you really look at most of the startups, right, you hear one co-founder's name a lot more than others. The one co-founder has more media coverage than the other co-founder, right? If both the co-founders have the same aspiration that I need to be in the media as much as you are and stuff like that, right, it starts leading to conflicts. Right? You should not really have that. And so people are not so broad-minded to even outrightly say that I need more media coverage, but it starts showing in other things, right? And the majority of the startups in India fail primarily because of co-founder conflicts, not because the market was bad or the product or they were not able to raise funding and stuff like that, right? People were not able to raise funding because the investors essentially sense the conflict between the two. Right? But the problem with Indian VCs is no one essentially tells them the problem, right? And that's essentially why things break. So you need to really figure out, that's the thing. And the best way to really find co-founders is someone with whom you have engaged in the past. be it at the workplace or be it whether you study together, whether you guys have played together and stuff like that, because you know those people in and out. When they didn't really have to